Welcome, everybody. I'm Susan Letterman White. I'm a practice advisor here at Mass LoMAP, and I want to thank you for tuning in to this webinar for busy lawyers. These monthly webinars are designed to bring you practical information in 20 to 30 minutes, and this is information that you can implement right away in your practice. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Kimberly Rice. Kimberly is the president and chief strategist of KLA Marketing Associates. She is the founder of Women in Law Rainmaker Forum, a nationally renowned keynote speaker and author of Rainmaker Roadmap, a step-by-step guide to building a prosperous business, and the editor-in-chief of ALM's Marketing the Law Firm. Before I turn it over to Kimberly, I'd like to let you know that we will have time at the end of her presentation to take your questions. Please just write your questions into the Zoom group chat box, and at the end, I will relay those questions to Kimberly, and she will have an opportunity to answer them. So, without anything further, Kimberly, please take it away.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon on this snowy day down here in Philadelphia, and welcome to everyone who's joining us on the call. I want to make our time together very valuable, and so I want to get right to it. I'm going to walk right through, I don't know if you've been in practice for one day or for 30 years, but one of the things that we have found that has been invaluable to our clients, which have been solo attorneys and attorneys in firms up to 1,000 lawyers, is that we've discovered over synthesis over 27 years that we've been in legal marketing, that there really comes down to 3 pillars for a prosperous business. The first and foremost being relationship building. We know that in legal services, our business model is predicated upon relationship building. Getting out and being connected with those individuals who are either in a decision-making position to retain you for your services and or who can refer new business to you. So there are many, many ways that you can cultivate and nurture relationships that will lead to those retentions. When we think about relationship building, we think about targeted networking, organizational involvement, writing for the blogs for your website, and that also serves the second function of a second component or pillar in building a prosperous business is through reputation enhancing. We like to say that you could be the greatest securities attorney or labor and employment attorney on the face of the planet, but if the right people are not aware of you or don't have knowledge of your services, then that doesn't really get you very far. So reputation enhancing tactics, marketing tactics could be also the blogging, which gives you an opportunity to demonstrate your expertise online. We are high advocates of repurposing any content that you develop, such as the blogs. You may have an article published in a local trade publication, depending on your focus of practice. You can take that article and cut it up into several sections. The general rule for blogs is 300 to 500 words. That's not legalese. That is topical, timely, and relevant to your audience. Other reputation enhancing activities can involve public speaking, engaging with audiences that, again, are in decision-making positions to retain you for your services and or can refer you to someone who is. Oftentimes, depending on your area of practice, we see our lawyer clients struggle with knowing where the right audiences are. And more firms are leading the attorneys, and not so much in specific tactics, but rather into certain industries. And so that's a whole nother program on niche marketing. But, to think of an industry that you serve in your area of practice, You want to go where those clients are. So you can look at the clients that you already have, and if there's a trend of a particular industry, then you would want to ask them, where do they go for their professional development or their professional involvement, and you go there. Perhaps you even go with them, because if you're representing, a general counsel in a products manufacturing company, then very likely there are going to be other potential clients at those gatherings, conferences, as if you will. So those are some steps that you can take to enhance your reputation over a period of time, to help demonstrate your expertise. And it needs to be on an ongoing basis, which I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. The third pillar, which is just as important as the two above, the relationship building and the reputation enhancing, is contact management. We all struggle with this. Oftentimes lawyers struggle because they don't have systems in place. In the corporate world, we typically have a Windows-based program with Outlook as our email program. Even if you have folks in your address book, and you want to calendar in Outlook to get in touch with them on a regular basis, that can be done through eBlast. That can be done via blogging and have them subscribe to your blog roll. There's many ways to do that, but there needs to be some kind of system that you get and stay connected with those folks in your network. All kinds of questions are usually raised of, I don't want to bug them. What do I say? The greatest piece of wisdom that I can impart about what do I say on a regular basis is to develop the mind and the attitude of service. Everyone has some type of need, a corporate need in their business. How can you key into what their challenge points may be? And if you have a contact list of hundreds of people, identify maybe 3 to 6 folks that you're going to target for the next couple of quarters, to really cultivate and nurture those relationships, and set up a Google alert on what their business is. So maybe you can just toss along to them digitally an article or a check sheet, or something that you actually draft original content, to say, I just saw this and I thought that this may be useful for you. When we had coffee last week, you talked about that this was a challenge or an obstacle in your business. Maybe this would give you some insight. So it comes down to making a commitment, having the systems, and understanding what your target audience's issues are, their pain points that you may be in a position to help them solve or capitalize on. So really a lot of what we teach in developing the habits of successful rainmakers, is the foundation are these 3 pillars to a prosperous business. So moving forward, taking that information and knowing that we have to constantly and consistently focus on building the relationships, enhancing our reputation, and develop a high level of visibility within your community and the audiences and targets that you're looking to reach, is thinking and adapting that attitude of service, and being proactive to recognize the opportunities in your stratosphere. I want to say we all have a life outside of our office, where you may go to the gym, or where you may go to temple, or where you have a book club. Wherever that is, there are business opportunities all around you, if you know what you're looking for. And so that's all the more reason to do that fundamental work of who is it that you're looking to serve, what are their issues, and how can you be of service. And that often comes, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment, of really zeroing in on a few people that you either have developed and are nurturing a relationship with, or are looking for in a certain silo, I'll say, in a certain type of business. In your specific area of practice, they have a certain job title. I'll just use labor and employment as an example. Oftentimes those potential ideal clients may be VP of Human Resources, or the Chief Operating Officers, or the Chief Financial Officers, even the CEOs of organizations. And so you want to know where they go. But looking at how to develop the marketing mindset of reaching those folks. Again, finding out where they go, going there, but then also developing, and it's a process to develop this marketing mindset of a service attitude, and understanding that marketing per se, I mean, marketing is a huge umbrella word that means a lot of different things to different people, is that it is not an event. It's not an networking event, but yet it's a lifestyle and a mindset, that bringing that to every aspect of our lives, of how can I be of service to others. And now it's not going to be 100% that every time you can be of service someone, that the cash register is going to ring and for your billable hours. But if you develop the overall mindset, and there's all kinds of resources to help you do that, and I'm sure Susan and her team have many. I have some that I'd be delighted to share with you, is to access the resources that help you develop that marketing mindset with the being of service to others, that will over time make a tremendous difference. So one of the ways to develop and enhance your reputation is to be solid on developing your personal brand. Oftentimes when I deliver this program to groups and associations throughout the country, lawyers are not really sure what a personal brand is. And I came across this slide from Jeff Bezos some years ago on this, and I incorporated it into my slide, is that a personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. It's not a reputation, but what do people think about when they think about you? And so the goal is to, through all of your messaging, whether it's your website profile, whether it's bylined articles and the little bio that's included in whatever publication it's running, even internally, depending on the size of your firm, firms of all sizes, is what are you known for? What do people go to you for specifically? I mean, if you're a corporate lawyer, there's a ton of different services within corporate law, but are you the M&A guru? Or are you the more the transactional end of the shareholder disputes or the shareholder agreements, or getting the deals done? You want to carve out through your activities, and that is supported by your work, as the go-to person for your area of law, not only that you enjoy first and foremost, but that you can communicate across all platforms, which means in front of your internal audiences, your partners, your marketing department, your information knowledge management team, so they know what to keep an eye out for to help you get and stay informed, to develop that level of expertise as the go-to person for X. And the reason that you want to do that is that you can't be the jack of all trades, which becomes the master of none, is that it helps you carve out a definitive brand, I guess is the best way, a definitive way of people thinking about you. So when as you grow your network, people say, oh yeah, you want to go see Susan about, getting handling a non-compete dispute, because she's, the maven of restrictive covenants, and she has a lot of success in that. So in general, people want to help us, and help us develop our business, help us develop our practice, but we have to make it super simple for them. And it easier is to do that if they know what it is that we're looking for and what it is that we want to attract more of. And one way we do this, and most folks, when I take a hand count in front of my audiences and groups that I teach, no one really seems to care that much or is not delighted about the concept of networking. And it's my position that most folks don't understand the value or the purpose objective of networking. Networking is not going and spraying and praying into a group of people that you may or may not know, yet it is to, taking that service attitude and engaging with that law of attraction of being able to give and to be of service to others before we benefit. And that can be a very short time frame, as far as if you're engaged in a targeted group of folks that if you walked out with 2 or 3 business cards that that you're going to immediately follow up on via email, maybe make a coffee date, etc. But it really is the origination place of knowing that you're in a room of people who are doing the exact same thing, and getting to know a few people, which mean for prospective clients or strategic alliances or referral partners, but it really has to do with relationship cultivation, not walking out with a client. And a lot of people have a great misunderstanding of that. So I'm going to, obviously, and you're going to get these slides, but I'm going to focus a little bit on some of the higher points because I don't want to run out of time. But lawyers of all ages struggle with managing their digital assets, which is incorporating their personal brand, being very clear about what they do, who they do it for, and the outcome and results of the services that they provide. Oftentimes we look at, and we do a ton of web development and helping our attorney clients beef up and bring into alignment their digital assets as far as their LinkedIn profile, their website profile. It's very, very important that you not only get them up to date, but what we find more than anything is that the profiles, bios across all these platforms focus more on how great the lawyer is and very, very little about how they help clients. First and foremost, those first couple of sentences on the profile needs to talk about how do I help clients? How do I either protect, prevent, help them capitalize on opportunities? How do I solve their problems? What is it that I do? Because number one, web attorney profiles are the number 1 page visited on websites. Number 2, they only care about how you can help them. They don't care if you got graduated from Harvard, Stanford, or Seton Hall. They care about how you can help them. So on an ongoing basis, it's absolutely imperative for you to get and keep these documents updated. Perfecting the close. I'm just going to say this about closing a deal. Number 1, if you have the relationship in place, if you're cultivating and nurturing these relationships with people who can or in a position to retain you for your services and or refer you to those who can, there's 2 main points that must be present in order to generate new client matters. Number 1, you must have the relationship. You must present yourself and have built the rapport and the trust, which nobody can buy, and it takes time to cultivate. But productive conversations revolve around what it is that what is the problem, and how you are the solution to that problem. And the best way to do that is to ask this potential client that maybe you may be sitting in front of you, what are their challenges, what are their problems, what are the circumstances and situations that trigger the need for your services or someone within your firm. That it is it in a nutshell as how, and then you ask a series of questions to learn more. So if they say that they've just had an employee rip them off, whether it be financially or from data, or they violated a restrictive covenant, so tell me about that. And how does that present a problem for you? What does that cost you as far as productivity or financial issues within the company? Well, what else about that? And what else about that? So you get down to the core issue, and then you're going to strike gold, because it's going to become clear, if you're a labor and employment attorney, that there is actually a case here. And so how you are in a position to help them. Again, we have tons of resources around all of this, but it's not about being pushy. It's not about, being salesy. It's not about you making someone do something. Lawyers are notoriously uncomfortable with asking for business, but if it's all about, goes back to that first slide of how you can be of service to others and cultivating the relationship and adapting that service attitude. So taking all of those practices on an ongoing basis, we like to say, we encompass that of rinsing and repeating. And it is a process. Building a book of business, is a long-term investment in your professional future. But we know through working with hundreds, thousands of lawyers, that if we work with folks who implement these sound strategies, that they follow through and follow up. Calendars should be our best friends, and then you move forward and you course correct as needed. And so over all these years, one of the things that I've developed through my firm, KLA Marketing Associates, is really what's called the secret sauce. Because lawyers are always looking for the one thing that's going to help them take off and be, crazy successful. And there is no one magic pill or a magic bullet or one solution. But what we have found over time is that it is the consistent, persistent, massive amounts of action. And what I mean by that is, of everything that I've just described, is the reputation enhancing and the relationship building and the contact management, integrating those into your daily practice, and what that means for you as far as following up, having that target list, massive amounts of action of the marketing tactics over a prolonged period of time, constantly, not fits and starts, not spray and pray, not random acts of marketing. That right there, the secret sauce, will lead you to a prosperous business if implemented on an ongoing basis. And what we can just do is we can sow the right seeds in the right fields on a consistent, persistent basis. And that's why oftentimes it's very, very productive to have a coach or a marketing some accountability feature in our lives to make sure that we're implementing on those practices that will lead you to a prosperous business. The secret sauce, you can certainly go on my website, klamarketing.com. My book lays it out. The Rainmaker Roadmap lays out all of these tactics in granular detail. And that's it. I mean, that is the top habits of successful rainmakers, that you follow these procedures on an ongoing basis. So I'm happy to take any questions or expand on anything that I've just spoken about.
So thank you so much, Kimberly. This was so informative. Well, I'm going to give a little bit of time for people to write their questions in the group chat if they have them. In the meantime, I have a few things. So at the top of the list, I have to ask you, maybe would it be possible that you could send us a book? Because we do have a lending library for anybody who comes by. And maybe they'd like to have a chance to take a look at the book, and we'd be happy to put it in our library if you want to send us a copy.
I'd be delighted to do that, Susan.
Terrific. So, yes, somebody just asked about getting a copy of this presentation. The presentation and the slides will be posted to the Mass LoMAP website after the program. Give us, a week or so. Our marketing director has a lot on her plate, but she does put them up as soon as possible, so they will be there for you. So I do have like a couple of questions. You said some very interesting things, and I thought about a couple of things. So when you said marketing is a lifestyle, I wonder, do you have any hints, any tips for people who hear that, the introverts who hear that and say, oh my gosh, is it really a lifestyle? Do I have to be doing this all the time? That's just too much for me.
Absolutely. And we know statistically that most lawyers are introverts. And we understand completely that some of these things that we say we have to do, like networking or organizational involvement, are not their cup of tea. What building a business, prosperous business, comes down to is the relationships. And we all experience relationships differently. So yes, it does need to be a lifestyle, but it needs to be adapted to your communication style and your personality style. And so, in the introverted way, maybe it is identifying 3 individuals that maybe are in your network and communicating with them. Maybe it's over the phone, maybe it's through email. At some point, you do need to get in front of these people, because there's no substitute for face-to-face coffees or whatever. So you can avoid the large crowds, that most people think about networking, but that we actually have a lot of resources on marketing for introverts on our website. I'd be glad to share those links with you, Susan, and you can share them with those folks on the call, and some different reading recommendations. But it really does need to be integrated into your life, because we all have a life outside of our quote work life. But I could fill a book of examples of people that somewhat introverted, that they take their children to soccer or ballet, and they're sitting there with the other parents watching the children do their activity, and someone strikes a conversation up. And just through that very random, striking a conversation up with another parent, I've had clients find that, they're sitting next to a CEO of some company or some operations manager, and through a series of seeing each other at the children's activity, they become a paying client. So it doesn't happen in a rigid circumstance, as far as the client retentions. It can happen anywhere, anytime in our lives.
Oh, terrific. That's a great example. So I have a question from somebody in the audience, and it's a really good question and relating to branding. So I think one of the things you said about branding, it's kind of what people remember about you when you leave the room.
Yes.
So do you have any suggestions on how to assess or know what people are saying about you after you leave the room?
Oh, that's a great question. It's not just one time or another time, but I think that, for example, if you are involved in, I'm just going to say the example of, say, women in profession at a bar association. So if you're a woman lawyer and you go to this, I know down here in Philadelphia, we have monthly luncheons, and we go around the table and we introduce ourselves. That's your 30-second commercial. And so you need to spend some time about what you're saying about yourself, which should be in alignment with what's on your website profile. But after a period of time, you can just ask somebody that you're in a group with, say, I'm just curious, what do you hear when I say this? What is it that speaks to you? What is it that sticks with you when I say, your 30-second commercial? Or, did you know that I practice XYZ law? Because how many times have all the lawyers that we've worked with, said, oh, well, I'm a labor and employment attorney, but somebody didn't know that I could actually handle union contracts, or, some nuance in the practice, because we're so much more than just our job title.
So, I really like your point about asking for feedback. So, one of the things that I talk about often is that feedback is really a gift. And if I heard you right, you're kind of suggesting ask your pals.
Mm-hmm.
What are you taking away? Do you have any suggestions about how I might convey my brand better?
Absolutely, because oftentimes we find, and there's all kinds of psychological studies that show, we, and women in particular, often marginalize and undermine our own professional accomplishments and how, developed and how experienced and how accomplished we are, that we may not articulate that and as accurately as someone who's hearing that. And so I think women, well, I know women in particular have a very difficult time owning their greatness, you know. And so I think that kind of getting a reality check of just asking, not that you're wanting, you're seeking approval or validation or whatever, but you're just seeking honest, authentic feedback can be enormously insightful and instructive.
Terrific. So I don't see any further questions. I just want to thank you again for sharing your time and advice with us. And as I said earlier, we will provide a recording and the slides on our website, www.masslomap.org. Give us a week or so to get them up there. So thank you everyone for tuning in today, and please mark your calendars for next month's webinar when Brooke Moore will present how to build a virtual practice on April 25th at noon. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a terrific afternoon, everybody.